Well, good afternoon. Happy Wednesday. Feels like Friday, but happy Wednesday. Nice to be with all of you. And I'm glad that many of you are on this call. And I see the list. It's our IHE partners. We couldn't do this work without any of you, so we're thrilled that you're all at the table here. We are finally have the grant for that we've been talking about with you folks for a bit of time here. We're finally ready to move forward with that with all of you, and we just wanted to walk through some logistics, some process pieces, and some accounting pieces that we really should have in place, so that we manage this money effectively, and then should there be audits, et cetera, we're on top of this. So I think that's kind of the primary purpose of this. There are some other ancillary pieces, but that's kind of the primary mechanics of this funding that we want to sort of review with you. All right, so we're going to cover the budget. We're going to cover some timelines. We're going to cover requests for reimbursement. You'll see that the way we pay for grants is you expend and then seek reimbursement for those funds. That's how the process works. And so we'll sort of talk through that. We will discuss public reporting on EdSite, so you'll actually be able to track which grants, what's your grant status, drawdowns, how much of the money is left, et cetera. You'll be able to see that, and the world will be able to see that. So just so you know, this is a very public report in terms of the funding levels, and you all know the levels of funding each of you is getting. So that is something we've communicated to all of you. And we'll review the assurances, and we'll review the NACEP events, because part of this work is strengthening our partnership with NACEP here. So we'll review that as well. And Renee, any time along this way, you should probably feel free to jump in. Were you planning to review this slide, Renee?
I will do whatever you'd like.
Okay. Wow. That's a colleague here. So Renee, why don't you take this one?
Okay. So all of our budgets live within the Electronic Grant Management System, or EGMS. And so what we have done with our fiscal office is provided essentially a budget shell to them to put into EGMS for each of your institutions for the amount that you've been told your institution is eligible for. The categories or the budget codes that are included in that shell are listed here. And in the attachment that I sent on, I guess that was on Monday, it gave you just kind of a brief description of what each of those categories, the kinds of expenses that fall under the different codes. When we're not asking you to submit a formal application for this grant, basically we have the pre-application, which was the form, the Microsoft form that you filled out that indicated that you understood the guidelines of the budget or the conditions of the budget, and that you agreed to those. So that's kind of like a pre-application of sorts. Rather than have you write up a big, long narrative application, what we're asking you to do is to include a narrative description for each of the items that are going to be included in your budget. And I did provide a couple of examples in that the guidelines document that I sent on Monday. Couple of things to note in it that was in that document. Budget line 200, personal services, employee benefits. We're not looking for extensive detail on this with like individual names. We don't need that information. However, if there's more detail in this budget, it might actually help your organization to be able to keep track of the monies that are going out. Faculty members paid as contractors, so they wouldn't be in lines 100 and 200. Instead, they're getting put into 300 and 500. So those are employees who are getting 1099s, working as contractors for you. And then finally, stipends that are part of a regular paycheck, those are reported as 100 and 200. So those are some clarifications about the budget categories. Were there questions about what I have on this slide, what we included in the guidelines document? Do you need clarification on any of that?
And you can raise your hand and unmute and.
Okay. Nope.
Yeah, so I just, sorry, I'm coming a bit late to this. I just want to make sure I understand. We sometimes will pay faculty over the winter or summer on a part-time faculty authorization, and that's outside of their normal salary and benefits. I'm just trying to make sure we understand how and when we can use these funds to pay our faculty for work on the project. Because if I'm understanding correctly, after December 24, we cannot use these funds to pay for anyone's regular salary and benefits. Is that correct?
Well.
As luck would have it,
As luck would have it.
Okay.
The
Sorry,
feds
I
have
think
actually come out and changed the rules. And I'm sorry, where are you from? Which institution?
I'm at Eastern Connecticut State, but Chris Drury has been much more closely involved in
Yep.
this, and I haven't had the chance to get the latest from Chris today. So apologies.
Oh, I don't think
if I'm
anybody
behind.
has the no. I don't think anybody has the latest. The latest is like a day and a half old. So
yeah, this is late breaking news, actually.
yeah,
And
this is
maybe,
like super late breaking.
so maybe we go to the next slide and then
Actually-
address that. No?
Yeah, but I just wanted to stay on this one just to finish this up.
Okay.
Just to reiterate the point you made, Renee, which is that we're not asking for a grant application in the traditional sense, right? We're not asking you to give us a project narrative, your goals and your objectives and your strategies and whatever. We're not asking you to do that kind of stuff. We're asking you for a budget, but in that budget, we want you to provide like a few sentences of what the people, like if you're paying for someone's salaries, you don't have to name the people, but if you're paying for 3 faculty to develop particular courses with high schools in Connecticut, then we just want you to just say a little bit about that in the budget itself. Like just put a few sentences so that it's clear. This is what you're paying faculty to do. These types of partnerships, these types of courses, you don't have to list every course. Okay, there might be 50, 100 courses, but we're just trying to have something in there. We may do a separate sort of survey with you to get a sense of sort of a broader, quick survey of activities or something. But at this point, for this purpose, we just need a brief sort of sense of what you're going to spend the money on. So if you're paying, like proposing to use these funds to pay for a contract to buy a registration software for that you're going to, or a service that you're going to deploy for your IHE, just indicate that and explain that in the narrative. Don't make it cryptic is all I'm saying, so just make sure it's explicit so we understand what that is, because that is the basis on which we're paying you. So we need to have some sort of basis. Typically people would write pages and pages of an application. We're trying to not burden you with all that stuff, but we just need to have something that we can say, yep, these are the things they're spending it on. This is what it's for, and go. So so hope that kind of says, like, we're not looking for pages. We're just looking for a few sentences that explain what it's for. Okay. All right. So now we can move to the next slide, Renee. Thanks. Yeah. So we have 15 institutions actually that have agreed to this, which is great. And this is not counting the CT State community colleges, each one of them separately. So this is like CT State is one, UConn is one, Charter Oak is one, then you got Southern, Eastern, Western, and then there's a whole bunch of our private partners who are private colleges who are on here, who are also receiving funds. So we're thrilled that it's a diverse mix. So the 2 terms that you've got to know is obligation and liquidation. So obligation means that there is a committed, a commitment in your accounting system, a documented commitment in your accounting system for a particular procurement, whether it be for salaries, whether it be for a contracted service, whether it be for equipment, whatever, a transportation contract, because I know that's also something that can be covered under this grant. You got to have obligations that are documented in your system. So when there is an audit, you could show that those commitments, whether through a contract or a PO, in the case of payroll, it's an estimate of payroll for certain people. Like that stuff is made prior to December 31st, 2024. So by the end of this calendar year, that date is non-negotiable. That changing that requires act of Congress, and we know what an act of Congress requires, so that's not happening. So the December 31st, 2024 date is like baked, solid, not moving. So get your obligations settled in your own accounting systems by that date. Because let's say you want to procure a certain software and or a registration system, and you said, you know what, we want to dedicate $30,000 towards that, and you put 30,000, and then you say in October of 24, oh, I don't think I need the 30,000. I want to pay faculty with that. You have time. You can actually make a budget revision with us and move that 30,000 from that procurement to salaries. You'll have that time. But after December 31st, we're not entertaining wholesale shifts of those amounts. So make a good estimate based on your budget of what you're going to spend your money on. And these funds have 3 years of shelf life, right? So they can be spent till December of 2026, but you cannot change your obligations past December 2024, December 31st. So make sure, that's why this budget that you're setting up now, give some thought to it, sort of, you know, based on the funds you have, like, how do you want to spend it? Or surely you can expend it by that December 31st, 26 deadline. So that's obligation. It's a commitment. Liquidation is the actual spending of the money. So, and here's where the change happened in the last day. Literally, we got a notice from OPM saying that the previous rule that, and this supposedly they got federal guidance, and then there is the OPM is going to be putting out guidance that's imminent, that basically will allow state employees at our state institutions, UConn, CSUs, Charter Oak, all the 4 years at the CSUs and CT State, to pay for your state employees past December 31st, 2024. In fact, all the way up to December 31st, 2026. There are some caveats here in the sense that you have to, again, know what that commitment is and estimate that obligation. Yes, we know that sometimes you may have somebody who you estimate their salary, you know what salary increases are going to be, you estimate it, but then something changes and you need a little more money. That kind of arrangement, that kind of difference is okay, but you won't be able to now say, oh, I had 2 people there, now I want to have 3 people. So let me move from contracts to salaries after December 31st, 2024. That kind of shift is probably not going to be doable. So estimate how much you need for salaries, whether you're private or whether you're a state employee, really doesn't matter. Ultimately, we can all spend till December 31st, 2026. And as far as contracted services go, you've always had that ability all the way to December 31st of 2026. Before we leave this slide, any questions on obligation versus liquidation? And pardon me if you already know this and I'm being super redundant, but just feels like it's good to clarify these things. Good so far? Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Again, if you have questions after this, don't hesitate to reach out with your particular situation. Happy to help. Thank you. Yeah, happy to help. And Renee also sent in the communication to you the contact people for EGMS, because all of you already have people who are in EGMS. Are any of the EGMS folks on this call? Can I just see, I know some of you are on camera. Okay, some of you EGMS folks, so you know EGMS, you know what I'm talking about in terms of EGMS. So again, if you need help with that too, please let us know. We can troubleshoot that with you. All right, moving to timelines. We have the grant with a start date of July 1, 2023. Okay, so that is backdating it in effect. And we did that because we felt like we had to give you the ability to spend salaries for this year, especially for state employees, if the deadline was going to be December 2024. So, but now that the deadline has shifted, you know, you have the ability, but you don't have to allocate current year salaries, you know, previously paid salaries, if you will, using these grant funds. You can, but you don't have to. But you have that flexibility if you wanted to, okay? And that's for state employees and really for private employees too, private university employees as well. But again, you have 2+ years looking forward to spend these funds. In general, the way our fiscal payment works is we pay every week. But when you spend money, you'll be able to claim reimbursement from us to request reimbursement. I know we have a subsequent slide on fund requests, but please know that our books typically close in early to mid-June, like June 10th, June 15th. Our books close for the year, and we'll be stopping for a couple of weeks the payments until the next year. So if you need something from this year's money, then you really need to submit that request to us, a fund request to us by June 10th. And please know, you won't be able to submit any fund requests until you submit a budget. We've approved your budget. Our fiscal office has approved the budget. Only after that will you be able to even start a fund request. I see a question from Becky. Go ahead, Becky. Which institution are you from and what's your question?
From Western Connecticut State University.
Okay, great.
And I'm kind of late to the game, so maybe this question is something that should be obvious, but I'm wondering if so we don't have a full-time person who does early college here. We just have each content area that has courses gets like half of a credit per course, things like that. So in terms of teacher salaries, can this grant cover those portions of a salary, like just a certain number of credits per instructor? Is that?
When you say credits, you mean you're paying for the instructor's time to develop a course with a high school faculty?
These are courses that are already on the books, but they help as a liaison between, so for the registration process and collecting applications and grading common exams and sort of doing all of that, communicating between answering questions when students are like, oh, this application didn't happen and things like that.
And these are high school students you're talking about.
The high school student, right? So I'm talking about can WCSU faculty who get load credit to coordinate with the high school teachers and their students, can this be compensated by this grant?
Yeah, a portion of their salaries that is for the dual credit work. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That would just be
okay. So that would just be like taking a 12. So if you have a full-time person who's getting, let's say, 2 credits, you would just take the appropriate proportion of that salary.
That's right. I mean, but that's for you to figure out what that proportion is. Right. And that's if you want to use these grant funds in that way. I mean, you have flex there. I mean, I know there is the document that Renee sent talks about the acceptable uses of these funds as well. Like what are the permitted uses? And clearly you can pay for faculty work in this area. That's definitely an allowable expense. But maybe you don't want to do that. You know, maybe you want to use this for something else. You know, it's really entirely up to you in terms of within the parameters of this grant, how you use these funds. So again, obligation by December 31st, 2024. Obligation means it's a committed obligation because when there's an audit, later on, they'll say, okay, show me the contract, show me the PO that was executed before December 31st, 2024. That's the kind of question people will be asking. And if you don't obligate by the deadline, the money goes back to US Treasury. I mean, we're basically returning federal funds, pandemic relief funds. So nobody wants to do that. So please obligate these funds and spend them. Okay. Next, Renee. Unless you had something to add.
I just want to add one thing before we talk about reimbursement requests,
Hmm?
back to the budget development and, you know, you're all going to be in EGMS, or your EGMS designee is going to be in entering what your different activities and what you're going to be using the funds for. I guess I kind of wanted to explain the approval process. So once you've submitted that budget in EGMS, for people who are new to EGMS, because that was me a year ago, I would not call myself an expert, but I do have some experience now working with this system. So when you submit your budget, I get an automatic email telling me that it's been submitted and that it's ready for my review. And so I'm going to look at that, make sure I understand what you're allocating the money for, that it's specific enough that I get it, but it's not pages and pages long. And I may have a question about the specifics of it. And usually what I do when I have questions about whatever has been submitted is that message from EGMS tells me who did the submission. So that submission may have been done by your EGMS designee, but that person maybe isn't a project person. So I'm going to be communicating first through that EGMS designee to say, hey, I have a question about the funds that are allocated for, I don't know, supplies. Can I get some clarification on that? And then that person may respond to me. They may need to go to one of you who's more on the program side, and we're just going to settle it out. I might ask for a little more detail, or I might say, oh, okay, now that makes sense. I misread it, let's say. And so then when I'm feeling good about it, I go ahead and I, as like a program manager, approve that budget. And then I believe Ajit might have to take a look at it. And it finally goes to the fiscal office. So there's just a couple of steps. It can go pretty quick. I mean, I am almost instantaneous in these reviews. So the process can go pretty quickly. So I just wanted to give you a handle on how that worked, because reimbursement requests, which we're going to talk about now, can't happen until that budget has gone through that multi-step approval process. And so I think we're ready to talk about fund requests.
Yep. So fund requests are, as it says, it's reimbursement of funds expended. So you're basically fronting the money, and then once you've paid it, you're asking for reimbursement from us. That's kind of how the reimbursement process works. This is the way the state works with districts and all other grantees. It's the same kind of process here. And what we strongly recommend is that you have a separate budget account in your accounting system to track this budget. Because what we will need, these are ARPA funds, and by the requirements from OPM, the Office for Policy and Management, we have to have documentation evidence of the payment before we can reimburse you for your request. And we don't want, like, if you, and the example on the screen here is a printout from a district system, accounting system. They use something called Munis. I don't know what, some of you may use Core, some of you, because you're on the state system, I don't know, different people may use different things. We need some printout that says, here's the expense, and it should match whatever the fund request is. So we could look at the printout, we could say, okay, you spent $50,000, you're asking a fund request for $50,000. So far, you've spent $65,000 on the grant because you had a $15,000 previously. So we should be able to see that. And if we see it, we approve it, fiscal office approves it, move on. It's quick. You know, we don't need to see copies of invoices of purchased items and receipts and bills and all that stuff. If you have an accounting, I mean, you're all institutions, so I'm sure you have accounting systems. trust me, we have dealt with camps and small operations where it's been a mess, but as institutions, I'm sure you have accounting systems. So if you have a separate account for this, that's the cleanest way. You'll be able to show it exactly what's happening with the amount allocated to the IHE. So as far as payroll goes, you know, I mean, if it is a problem for you to front payroll, we could talk. We do allow for an upcoming payroll to be submitted sort of the week in which it's being requested for reimbursement, so that you know you're going to pay folks $10,000 in salaries on Friday, and you know that on Monday you can submit the fund request, knowing that it's an immediate payment that's going to happen real soon, but not something that's going to happen in 6 months. No, you can't. We don't prepay for that. We're sort of like pretty much on a reimbursement basis. Okay. I know this is probably not the primary job of many of you on this call, but you have accountants and fiscal folks who handle this, but in our world, we do it all.
I'll just add in, for the district grant that we've been running now since, since the fall, these printouts that I'm seeing for the ARPA funded grants usually say dual credit expansion program, or I can kind of tell what that fund is. So it seems like they are doing what Ajit is suggesting to all of you. And as far as the approval process goes, similar to approving the budget and it taking the steps through our office to be approved, reimbursement requests are handled in much the same way. I get the EGMS alert, I log in, I look at what the request is, I make sure that the documentation, like what you see on the screen, matches what the request says, it makes sense, I approve it, then shortly thereafter fiscal approves it, and then the money is dispersed.
So this is our public report. You can go to, you can just search for grant expenditures EdSite and this report will come up. The IHE grant is not yet up there, but it will be. Once you submit your budgets and it's all fiscally approved, then this will start populating. And we actually publicly report which IHEs, how much is still with the SDE, how much has been spent. So that kind of public reporting will happen. It doesn't get into like all the budget detail. It'll just show the high level number. But just so you know that there is a public reporting dashboard aspect to this. And that dashboard will list, again, here it's the district example, but it will list each IHE and the amounts as well.
So next is, I don't know how much detail you want to go into with the grant conditions and assurances.
I think these are the same. You've signed off on this, when you filled out the application. These are basically repeating what's there. We are making good progress with NACEP. I mean, you've heard of some of the webinars. Part of the condition of accepting these funds is that we ask that you pursue NACEP accreditation by 26-27, and we're going to help you through it. NACEP's on contract with us to help you through it. So we're going to continue to sort of push for that. And they're offering webinars right now. I believe there's one tomorrow afternoon as well. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Yep, it's coming soon. The faculty liaison and dual credit teacher partnership. So they're putting a lot of effort into scheduling these webinars. If you haven't already registered, you can click on that link and just register. Trudy, I'd be happy to send you the response email as well. Totally happy to forward that after this call. So NACEP has been, so we did one webinar, the promoting program quality one. Then we've got the faculty liaison one tomorrow, and then there's another one on student supports. And then the first big sort of in-person thing is the 2-day institute, Quality Institute at Gateway. So they're coming in person on August 13th and 14th. And it's going to be at Gateway Community College at New Haven, and thanks to CT State colleagues for hosting that. So folks from NACEP and some of their other related experts will be coming to Connecticut to conduct that 2-day institute. More on that will be coming out very soon. This will ask for IHEs to come with your with at least one or maybe ideally more district partners as well, because it continues to strengthen. Again, all of this stuff is to help you prepare for the accreditation submission in the future. So again, it's just a way to, we're sort of helping you along the way, if you will. Thanks, Renee, for advancing to this slide. But I know didn't we want to cover the other two, or did we skip some slides?
What other two? We've got this.
Was there another one before this?
There was the second
oh, that was just the
set
same
of grant conditions. Yep.
Yeah, so the only change we made in this grant conditions is that we changed that December 34th, December 2024 deadline because of what I just mentioned today about the salary piece. So, and you're all submitting data to us at the course level, which is awesome. We will be reporting that publicly as well, actually, so that you can all see and we can all see what are the types of courses and which high schools you're all partnering with. So that is going to be a public report as well, which I think will sort of help us see like what courses, which areas, et cetera, our partnerships exist across the state. So that's another report. That's not on your end, it's more on our end. The last point I'll make here is the last condition, which is this was part of the condition that you all signed off on, is that institutional indirect costs will be limited to no more than 10%. And I know there will be some indirect, or there may be some indirect. You know, if you don't have to ask for indirect, but if you need to, then they should know that it can't be more than 10%. All right, so that was the only point I wanted to make there. And then Renee, you can mention the last slide.
Right. Many of you know that we have the dual credit opportunities site. We recently added a new tab, the standards and accreditation tab, and that's where all of the NACEP information is going to be living. And you know, we're building it up over time. I know many of you have, or probably all of you, have something listed under programs and partnerships where you talk about what it is your institution is offering, who the main contact is, and there have been updates along the way to those. So if you have updates so that your institution is more appropriately or correctly, accurately represented, you can send those my way, and I can make sure that those changes get integrated into the dual credit opportunities site. Anything else you wanted to say about that, Ajit?
No, I think I just want to thank Renee for all the work that she has put into this website and to now adding a standards and accreditation. I think she deserves a huge round of applause for all her work to get this all out. I mean, without Renee's help, this would not be happening. So this requires a ton of follow-up with our fiscal folks, staying on them to get all this stuff in order. And we are overwhelmed as an agency, but again, really kudos, Renee. Thank you so much for all your help to
You are welcome.
to get us to this point. And so yeah, please get your budgets in. We're going to be reviewing and approving them on a rolling basis. So whenever you're ready, stick it into EGMS. If we need more detail, we'll tell you. If it looks good, we'll pass it along. Then you can start submitting fund requests, right? So we're not like, there's not a deadline, but please do this. I would say no later than the next, I don't know, next 3 weeks. But again, do the best you can, but the sooner you get it in, the better. Stephen, I see you have your hand up, please.
Thanks, Ajit. Just a quick question, since we were almost late to the game. Do we have an eGEMS contact here at Western? I was the one at Southern. I know we've used the system before. If so, should we just drop
Renee's Renee is looking it up as we speak. Let me
I'm
go
gonna
to
look it up.
Julianne. Let me go to Julianne.
And
Oh, did you have another question? Go ahead.
well, is that where we know how much monies we have?
No, how much money was communicated in an email to you or to the IHE separately, and we could follow that up, Stephen, with an email to you
Send it
that
to
was
me.
sent. Yep, absolutely. We'll follow
Appreciate
up.
it.
No problem. Anytime. Julianne?
Yep. Hi, how's everybody doing? A couple quick, hopefully, questions. Can you confirm what the start date is going to be for this grant as SCSU is going to receive it?
The start date, we're actually backdating it to July 1 of 23.
Okay.
So, we did that to allow you the ability to allocate expenditures that happened this year to the grant, if you wanted to do that.
Yep. Okay.
But you don't have to. You can look forward, and you have until December 26.
Okay. And then can you confirm the frequency of the invoicing? I mean, you said weekly, but can it be quarterly, monthly, or does it have to be weekly?
It doesn't have to be weekly.
Okay.
If you want to front the money and then just submit us a fund request on a quarterly basis, that's totally fine as well. I was just saying that we pay on a weekly basis.
Yep.
So whenever we get your fund request, everything looks okay, we approve it. The following Wednesday, it gets paid.
Okay.
And can I ask, Stephen, which institution are you with?
Western.
Western. Okay.
Go ahead, Chris.
So Chris Drury from Eastern. Couple questions about the budget lines. I just wanted to make sure as we're planning this out that we can use the grant funds to be reimbursed for NACEP accreditation costs. Should we, start that process pretty soon? So membership fees, and then it looked like there were application fees. There were once you're accredited, there are fees. So just in general, can the grant funding be used for those? And I guess if so, like which coding would we apply for like NACEP direct costs?
Yeah, I think it would be either 300 or 500, because those are usually the contracts, or it's maybe 500 is probably where those would go.
That's what we have in our draft, other purchase
Yep.
services for NACEP, and similarly for we want to bus students in potentially, but also feed them while they're here, which can add up over time. So my assumption is that food and dining costs are okay, but it looks like that might be an incorrect assumption.
Yeah, food is not okay. So I wouldn't do food expenses here.
Got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Ann? Yeah, no problem. Go ahead, Ann.
Rick, thanks, Ajit. Thanks, Renee. This is being recorded. We had a couple of people from our grants office that weren't able to make it today. Could you make a link available to us so we could share this, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep. We're
And
going to
if they
get
have
it
any-
posted.
Yeah. And if they have any follow-up questions, Ann, after that, by all means, have
I
them reach
appreciate
out.
it. Thanks.
Yep, no problem. Julianne, is your hand an old hand?
No, it's a new hand. Sorry.
New hand, okay.
It's a new hand. Right. So sort of pursuant to Chris's questions about paying the NAECP costs,
Mhm.
and work on this is expected to go all the way through 2026, but those funds also have to be obligated by December of 2024. So
Exactly.
things like membership fees and costs for events might be difficult because those aren't usually obligated more than a year in advance.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
do again, as much of the obligation that you can estimate, by December 24th, accurately estimate. That's what you want, because you don't want to be stuck with certain obligations that you cannot liquidate later on.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Any other questions? Renee, anything else from your side?
I don't think so. Stephen, I put the 2 names of the EGMS contacts for your institution in the chat. I don't know if you saw those.
I got them. Yeah, you got
Okay.
Catherine. So can we add our grants office as well? We can talk offline. We can get that.
Yeah, and I can let you know who the person is in your organization
No,
who has the
know.
power to add people.
Okay.
Yeah, you have somebody called a user access administrator who can add other people.
Yeah,
I
know
learned
it
that
is.
2 days ago, so.
I know it is. She's not on the call here because she was
Okay.
a different grant. Because I think we're in from using this before, so I was just checking whether I was still in there for Southern, but I'm not, so that's fine. Okay, all right.
No problem.
And then we get into there, and then we'll see what monies we've got, and then that's where we submit our budget, right?
Yes. When you
Okay.
log into EGMS, you'll see the amounts as well.
All right. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Any other questions? All right. I think we'll bring this meeting to a close. Thank you so much for jumping on. We'll record and post a link and share it with everybody. If you have any questions as you go through this process, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help you through this. And we want to support this work and make sure we have even more robust dual credit offerings for our high school students across the state with your help and partnership. So thank you so much. Be well.
Thank you.
But
Thanks, Ajit. Thanks, Renee.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.